It's that time of the year, boys and girls. It's convention season once again, and this year's regional convention is possibly the worst one yet. I know, I say that for every convention, but they just keep getting worse, man.
We extend a warm welcome to this Pure Worship Convention.
The theme for this convention is pure worship.
Pure worship, pure worship, pure worship.
And the governing body is going to warn us against the dangers of influencers, minivans, and listening to outside opinions. Yeah, it's about to get culty. You know, as always, we're doing the cringe challenge, so if you cringe, you lose. And when you cringe, let me know the exact moment you lost it. Are you ready? Let's watch.
The governing body is pleased to present the following video for your enjoyment.
The Watchtower is obsessed with the concept of pure worship. In fact, not too long ago, Jehovah's Witnesses studied this book, Pure Worship of Jehovah, Restored at Last. Did you study this book? I remember I did, and I used to think it was super awesome and very profound. Much like Mormons, Jehovah's Witnesses are a restorationist Christian religion, meaning they believe they are the restoration of the one true form of Christianity. JWs believe that after the death of the original apostles, the Christian movement descended into apostasy and remained so for thousands of years. It was only in the 1800s that Jehovah God used a man named Charles Taze Russell to start the Bible student movement. True Christians who rediscovered Bible truths that had long been forgotten. This movement spread across the world and would later be rebranded as Jehovah's Witnesses. Pure worship, then, is a return to the original form of Christianity, as practiced by the original apostles before the fall into apostasy. To the Watchtower, giving pure worship to Jehovah involves avoiding holidays, remaining politically neutral, and shunning apostates, those who have left the religion. Basically, being as distant as possible from this fallen world. And you'll see these themes play out throughout the convention to ridiculous extremes. So the first talk of the program is actually titled, "What is Pure Worship?" And the speaker starts off by thanking his audience for putting in the effort of getting to the convention. And yeah, for some families, getting to these convention sites can be a real hassle. You have to ask for the weekend off at work, you have to get all your kids dressed up, and if the convention takes place in another city, you have to either drive for hours or splurge in a hotel room. All of this to sit down in some uncomfortable bleachers to listen to 8-hour-long indoctrination sessions. Super exciting stuff. And to think that conventions used to last like 8 days back in our grandparents' age. How did they even survive that? 8 days of convention? Jesus. Maybe it was the cheese danishes that kept them going.
Now, many of us here too, we've been attending conventions like this for years, perhaps decades.
Yeah, try multiple decades, my dude. Multiple decades of conventions promising that the end is near. Yeah, glad to see the tradition hasn't been lost. So the speaker starts off his talk by defining basic terms like worship, as if we're hearing this word for the first time.
So what is worship?
He then gives a 6-point list of who is practicing pure worship today.
What identifies those who practice pure worship today?
Point number 1. True worshipers worship only Jehovah.
They worship only Jehovah.
Now, since Jehovah's Witnesses don't believe in the Trinity, and they hold Jesus to be separate and inferior to God, this means that anyone who worships Jesus is not a true worshiper. So, if you're a mainstream Christian watching this, you better change your ways because you're not going to make it into paradise unless you repent.
Test number 2, John 16:27. Pure worship involves love and affection for God's Son.
See, you can have love and affection for God's Son, aka Jesus, but you can't worship Him. How can you show love for Jesus if you're not even allowed to communicate with Him? I don't know, by thinking about him, I guess. But just don't think about him too much, because if you mention Jesus a few too many times, JWs will start looking at you with a bit of suspicion.
I don't know, man. You've been seeming sus lately. It's almost like we have an imposter among us.
And then test number 3, John 17 and verse 17. There it says, sanctify them by means of the truth. Your word is truth. The test? Well, when Jesus' followers obey the truth, they adhere to God's word.
Okay, so reading and obeying the Bible. Something that literally all Christians claim to do. Of course, JWs would argue that the other so-called Christians don't have a correct understanding of the Bible and therefore don't follow it correctly.
Now test number 4. Pure worship would involve the preaching of the good news of God's kingdom. And as Jehovah's people, we stay busy with that. That identifies us. That's our hallmark, isn't it?
Now, by preaching the good news, JWs don't just refer to sharing the gospel in your everyday life or by doing charity work. No, you gotta put on some dress pants or skirt and go knock on some doors or stand next to a literature cart. The preaching work is what identifies true worshipers, even though this highly systematized version of proselytizing is nowhere to be found in the New Testament.
Now there's 2 tests left. Number 5, John 13, verse 34 and 35. They show unselfish love for one another. Now, how important is that? Well, Jesus said, by this, all would know that you are my disciples.
Jehovah's Witnesses claim to be the only religious group who has unselfish love for one another. And yeah, when you're in the religion, you definitely feel that you're part of a worldwide family. But this love is not unconditional. It ends as soon as you start questioning the leadership or stepping out of line, as this very convention will make clear. If brotherly love identifies pure worshipers, then any religious group can claim this title. Loving those who believe the same things you do is nothing special. Hell, it's even a bit tribalistic, something that's deeply ingrained in our caveman brains.
And then test number 6, John chapter 15 and verse 19. They remain no part of the world.
There you have it, boys and girls. 6 tests to identify pure worshipers today. Of course, it's easy to check off boxes of a list which you have created. If I make a list to identify the perfect man and all the points are just descriptions of me, then of course I'm gonna fit all of them. This box checking exercise is just a circular reasoning circle jerk, but Watchtower does it all of the time.
Yes, Jesus, he's actively promoting, he's protecting pure worship today. How's he do that? Well, being the head of the congregation, he certainly oversees the preaching activity. Also, he directs his followers to clear understanding of Jehovah's Word, Bible truth.
So you know all the brochures and magazines that the Watchtower has produced over the years, which are now full of outdated doctrine and failed predictions? Well, Jesus was behind all of that. Every time our overlords in New York concoct some new dogma, Jesus is sitting invisibly in that office, manipulating their neurons, firing their synapses, directing their every move, defending pure worship from all those fake Christians who swear Jehovah's Witnesses are heretics. But they're not heretics because JWs fill all the boxes in this list that they themselves created. Checkmate, Christians. Now that our appetite is whet for spiritual food, we get our first governing body member, Samuel Hurd, last remaining black guy of the group. Well, the only black guy in the group, like, ever. And I'm not gonna lie, this sofa doesn't look very comfortable. Like, it looks like he's grasping an electric chair or something.
On behalf of the governing body, I warmly welcome you to the Pure Worship Convention. Last year's Declare the Good News Convention was epic.
Okay, who forced Grandpa to say this line? It's definitely gonna go in the soundboard.
Epic.
Comrade Herd then gives us a preview of the next 2 episodes of the epic Jesus series, because the entire convention revolves around these 2 episodes. I already covered them last week, so don't forget to check that out before or after this video.
There's no greater privilege in the universe than to worship the only true God, Jehovah.
How do you know that, Herd? Have you explored the rest of the universe? Maybe there's cooler gods out there than Jehovah. Gods that don't require you to martyr yourself in case you need a blood transfusion, or that at least let you celebrate the day you were born. Just saying.
In fact, that's our purpose in life. May this convention move all of us to worship Jehovah acceptably and to stick to pure worship forever.
Forever is a long time, dude. I gave 20 years of my life to the cause and I was fed up by the end.
Oh, that was exciting. Let's add to that excitement even a little bit more. At this time, if you want to get your program out, and let's see what we're going to learn.
I kid you not, like 1/3 of the convention time is spent previewing and reviewing material. They hype you up for future symposiums or movies, then give you the most elementary brain-dead sermon possible, and then they review it again, just to make sure you got the point. Just know that the video you're watching right now is the result of scouring through hours and hours of unusable footage. So drop a like for me, please. It was a lot of work.
I feel dead inside.
I'm sure you would agree that we have seen unprecedented changes in the world in recent times. Political upheaval, financial uncertainty, social unrest, not to mention the violent conflicts that are happening in one part of the world after another. This seems to have become the new norm.
Brother, these things have always happened. Did you not pay attention in school? You know what this is, boys and girls? Another fear-mongering talk to convince us that we're living
in the final part of the last days, undoubtedly the final part of the final part of the last days, shortly before the last day of the last days.
The talk is titled, Who Really Rules the World? And the answer is Satan, the devil. According to Jehovah's Witnesses, Satan rules the world because Jehovah allows him to.
Jesus referred to Satan as the ruler of the world.
That's the short answer, but I did find some of his remarks quite interesting.
But here's a caution. Although some in government have committed horrible atrocities, the Bible does not say that Satan directly controls each leader or official. So we have to be careful when we think about this.
In other words, we're going to talk crap about worldly governments in general and pray for their imminent destruction, but we won't have the spine to call out specific leaders who are carrying out war crimes, Satanyahu, because calling them out would put our tax exception status at risk. That's what he means by this.
Well, today, Satan promotes worshipful allegiance to beast-like governments, pressuring people to take sides in politics and other controversies.
Bro, how is taking sides in politics equal to worshiping the government? That's a huge leap.
That's a stretch.
Well, in modern times, some governments have even supported God's people. For example, when facing opposition, some high courts, such as the U.S. Supreme Court or the European Court of Human Rights, have come to the rescue of God's people by ruling in their favor and allowing them a certain measure of freedom.
And here you have the paradox at the heart of Watchtower's view of politics. Apparently, all of the world's governments are controlled by Satan the devil and don't deserve our support. But within these governments, you will find individuals and even entire systems willing to protect the freedom of worship of Jehovah's Witnesses. So are these individuals under the control of Satan or not? Why would Satan use them to grant his enemies freedom of worship? Are these individuals being guided by the Holy Spirit? If that's the case, why would Jehovah intervene in the political scene if the whole point of handing over the world to Satan is to prove that Satan is a terrible ruler? Wouldn't Jehovah intervening in politics be helping Satan out?
So these human rulers are placed in their position by God, where he allows them to exist.
So Jehovah is the one that chooses these political leaders, not Satan. So are Jehovah and Satan buddies behind the scenes? Sure seems like it. It's like they're playing a game of chess, except they're in the same team, taking turns moving the pieces.
I don't know what to believe anymore.
Oh man, but the craziness doesn't end there. We're just getting started, because now we get to a series of talks titled Imitate Jesus' Response to the Tempter, in which we see a JW family facing temptation in their everyday life. Now, I previously covered one of these videos, the Apostate one, which you should totally check out after this, because it's really disturbing. But now we're gonna see the rest of the series.
How wicked Satan is. How crafty. He did not hold back from tempting even Jesus. And he does not hold back from tempting us today.
Yeah, especially with those immodestly dressed pillows and those aquariums, man. That Satan is very crafty, I tell you.
Sexy.
Satan tempts individuals to satisfy sexual desires whenever and with whomever they want, rather than wait for an honorable marriage.
Oh no! Not the sin of consensual sex.
Satan uses pornography to fuel sexual immorality.
Yeah, especially when you talk about it all of the time.
And sadly, we live in a world where pornography is readily available, and viewing it has become normalized in the minds of many people. Why is it so harmful? Even if pornography does not lead a person to commit sexual immorality, it inevitably does lead to immoral, debasing thoughts, and often it leads to the practice of self-abuse, which is unclean.
I can't believe they're still referring to masturbation as self-abuse. I just crack up every time I hear it. I don't know what kind of masturbating you're doing.
The temptation to view pornography can be much more difficult to resist when a person is weak, perhaps because of being lonely, tired, or under stress.
Or when you're consumed by religious guilt and sexual repression, which usually goes hand in hand with loneliness. Just speaking from personal experience, pornography stopped being a temptation for me the moment I stepped away from this toxic religion. It's like they can identify the problem, but they're unable to identify the root cause.
Now we're going to watch together a video dramatization, and as you watch, take note of how the brother imitates Jesus' example when facing temptation.
Okay, so now we can finally watch the movie. Grab your popcorn and put on your tinfoil hats. It's gonna get bad.
Thank you for taking on some of the congregation responsibilities. We're praying for that too. Okay. Hey, thanks, John. All right, bye. Hey, babe. It's about time for your meds.
My favorite one.
Hey, buddy. So what's your homework for today?
Math?
You need some help?
No, I think I'm okay.
Hi, everyone. We're back in town, and guess what? We got our house, and we had everything we wanted. His and her walk-in closets, heated swimming pool.
I'm excited. Chris and Nikki coming back in town.
Yeah, it's gonna be good.
How long's it been?
About 15 years, I think.
Wow.
Yeah. These women are barely wearing anything. How did this stuff even get on my feed?
Brother, it's an algorithm. It shows you what you feed it. And the picture that they show is just some girls in a club. Brother, you're married. Have you never seen a scantily clad woman before?
Hey, Dad. Maybe I could use your help here.
Sure, yeah.
Dude was about to bust.
Why am I still getting these posts?
It's the algorithm.
Satan always tries to exploit our natural desires, like he did with Jesus.
If you are a son of God, tell these stones to become loaves of bread.
There are desires that we have that are natural, but satisfying those desires in a selfish way would not be right.
It is written, man must live not on bread alone, but on every word that comes from Jehovah's mouth.
If this app could lead me to damage my relationship with Jehovah, it's not for me.
Damn, this is such an overblown response. Like, what's the temptation exactly? Cheating on your wife? Or looking at inappropriate pictures? Cause random thirst traps are gonna come up everywhere. Like, you can't stop that, right? But you know what you can do? Just keep scrolling. Feed your algorithm with more wholesome stuff, like, I don't know, cat videos or shitpost memes. Maybe Justin feels a bit of sexual repression because his wife is not doing very good, you know, health-wise, which is totally understandable. But since self-pleasure is not allowed in this religion, of course Justin is gonna be triggered by some mildly suggestive photos. Like, he's acting like a teenager. It's crazy how in this religion you can be sexually repressed even when you're married.
Let me ask you what you think. Do you think it was extreme or unrealistic for the brother to actually delete from his phone an app that was presenting sexually provocative images?
Yeah, just a little bit overblown.
No, it was not. He was imitating Jesus by identifying a temptation and acting immediately to reject it. Our brother took decisive action to safeguard himself.
He did the equivalent of cutting a weed without pulling it from the roots. The problem is not the app itself, it's the religious guilt that fuels this temptation to look at the stuff. It really is that simple.
He knows that not only is pornography unclean, but any material that inflames wrong desires is unclean, even if it doesn't depict total nudity or sexual acts.
And how do we determine what material is provocative or not? Who knows? When you're a JW, you're constantly walking on eggshells, terrified of stumbling upon a picture or a movie scene that is even mildly suggestive, because that's gonna lead you straight into cheating on your spouse. It's such a miserable way to live, and I'm so happy I'm out of this paranoia.
Well, as he did with Jesus, Satan may tempt us to put our physical lives in danger by taking unnecessary risks or engaging in reckless behavior, in effect causing Jehovah or causing us to test whether Jehovah would protect us.
Oh, does this include carrying a no blood card in your wallet at all times? Hoping Jehovah will not let you die in case you need an emergency blood transfusion? That would sure seem like putting God to the test.
Now today, Satan may also tempt us to use social media or other means to draw undue attention to ourselves, tempting us to focus on our reputation more than obediently living in harmony with God's word, which repeatedly counsels us to be humble.
So, building a following on social media is looked down upon, but recording yourself in a multi-million-dollar studio while claiming to be God's spokesperson is totally okay. Oh boy, let's roll the second clip.
You like that story. I have so many more about your dad to tell you. So many more. I can tell you right.
That one tonight. But speaking of back in the day, look what I found.
Oh.
Whoa, that was you and Chris.
Yeah.
What's that? Oh, Pioneer School.
Mm-hmm. That feels like a million years ago.
Well, if it's any consolation, you look gorgeous.
Oh, girl, I don't know about that.
You do. You really do. This would actually be a perfect post for this group that I follow. You should join. It's for witnesses, and we share stories about our personal health journeys and spiritual thoughts. It is very inspiring. If people could hear your truth, you would be an encouragement to so many people.
I don't think anybody wants to hear from me.
I want to hear from you, Shayla.
Shayla, you really need to think more of yourself. When was the last time you really felt heard? Cancer has taken so much from you. Don't you want to feel better?
Hey girl, here's the selfie of us and a link to that social media page. I think your story can go witness viral.
Hey everyone, I just wanted to share my daily scriptural tip with you guys. Thank you so much for following all of my videos.
Hey everyone around the world, I want to thank you so much for all of your prayers and especially...
Hi everyone that may be watching. I just really wanted to share with you all my truth about this whole experience.
Notice how they keep using the phrase, my truth.
Your truth.
My truth.
This might go over your head, but to a Jehovah's Witness, my truth will raise up a few alarm bells. You see, Jehovah's Witnesses are used to calling their religion the truth. There is only one truth, that is, being one of Jehovah's Witnesses.
There's only one truth, and it comes from Jehovah.
Being part of the collective unit. So when someone says, my truth, that means they're thinking as an individual, which is a big no-no in this religion. You're not supposed to think for yourself. Independent thinking is frowned upon.
Updating friends and family is one thing, but this feels wrong.
If you are a son of God, throw yourself down.
Satan tried to get Jesus to draw undue attention to himself.
You must not put Jehovah your God to the test.
I still have no idea how we're supposed to relate this to the temptation story. Jesus was tempted to throw himself off the temple to prove he was the Son of God. But this lady is not trying to prove anything. These people on JW Instagram were just sharing their stories. I didn't see any of them showing off their wealth or anything. This is such a massive stretch, even for Watchtower.
That's a stretch.
No matter what I'm going through, I need to focus on what Jehovah promises and not bring unnecessary attention to myself.
God forbid a woman share her battle with cancer on social media. Jesus, the governing body doesn't want JWs becoming influencers because they want to be the only role models in the religion. Or at least they want to be the ones to choose the role models that they use in JW broadcasting. If you got all these JW influencers running around, they will eventually provide alternate ways to live out the JW life. And the governing body doesn't want that because they can't control what JW influencers say. They want full control of the JW brand. This is what it's all about. And you know what's the most frustrating part out of all of this? Is that the Watchtower is super happy to use cancer patients on their propaganda on JW broadcasting, but when this lady tries to share her story on her account, she is shamed for it. Sharing her story on social media would probably help this lady out, at least, to vent her frustrations. She could even provide encouragement to other women going through the same trials. But nope, doing so would be considered prideful, and Jehovah doesn't like that. Now, another reason why the governing body might want JWs to stay off social media is because they want their followers to not be exposed to apostate ideas. And if you promote yourself as a Jehovah's Witness online, it's just a matter of time before you get people leaving comments on your page telling you that you're in a cult. Alright, let's look at the third video.
So, Aiden, what you been up to lately?
Well, I'm about to graduate soon.
That's exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can't wait. And, I'm thinking about applying to Bethel.
Okay, Bethel. All right, really?
Yeah, I've been wanting to do it since I was a kid.
Okay.
This lady is actually a pretty decent actress. The way she subtly scoffs at the idea of Bethel Pioneer School and Spiritual Thoughts.
Oh, Pioneer School. Spiritual Thoughts. Okay.
She's either a great actress or totally PMO.
Bethel's nice, but you got to think about your future.
Yeah.
How will you support yourself, or how would you support a wife after Bethel?
You can still serve Jehovah right here.
That's true. I know. I get it. When I was your age, they told me the end could come tomorrow too.
Yeah.
But look at us. We have a real comfortable life.
And we're still witnesses, Aiden.
These are totally valid points. 1. There's no guarantee that Armageddon will come in your lifetime. 2. You need to think about your financial security. 3. You can still be a Jehovah's Witness even if you choose a comfortable life. Let's see how Aiden and his parents respond to this logic.
And we're still witnesses, Aiden. You're so young and smart. There's so many opportunities open to you right now. It's nice that you have spiritual goals, truly. But you also need to be realistic.
He's being realistic. Yeah, and there's a lot of ways you can serve Jehovah at Bethel.
Dude, we know there's a gazillion ways to serve Big J. They're talking about your financial security. You know, how you're gonna earn money to feed yourself and your family? Bruh.
Like what? Washing windows?
But if it means putting Jehovah first, is there anything wrong with that?
Of course, nothing's wrong with that. It's just that he could have so much more.
Anyway, lunch was amazing. Thank you so much, Shayla. I can't believe you did all of this for us.
What an awkward conversation, but I'm sure it happens all of the time, as an aging generation of witnesses has to grapple with the consequences of their earlier financial decisions. Now, it's easy for Justin and Shayla to act all righteous and say that Jehovah will provide. They seem to be living in a nice house, and the film never implies that they're undergoing financial troubles, even through Shayla's cancer treatment. Chris and Nikki also seem to have been financially successful, but they know that getting to that level requires very hard work and wise decisions, and that spending several years at Bethel performing free labor will probably set you back in terms of your career. So let's see how Aiden responds.
What especially motivates so many to serve at Bethel?
Unlimited pillows.
Love for Jehovah moves us to put kingdom interests ahead of...
Hey, you okay? Yeah. Hey, don't let Chris and Nikki get in your head. Their focus seems to be off.
Their focus seems spot on to me.
Did you want to talk about it?
No, I think I'm good. Satan has always done this. He tried to tempt Jesus with what the world could offer. But Jesus didn't focus on himself. He focused on Jehovah and doing his will. That's what I'm gonna do.
What? Are you also gonna get crucified for the sins of the world? I don't remember Jesus saying that doing God's will involves performing free labor in upstate New York. It's crazy how Chris and Nikki are being portrayed as the voice of Satan in the series when all they've given so far is reasonable advice. Seriously, Nikki encouraged Shayla to share her battle with cancer on social media, and Chris encouraged Aiden to think about his future. That's it. Watchtower is treating these characters as if they were offering their family some fentanyl. Like, it's ridiculous.
But what else does Satan use? He uses his wicked agents, opposers and apostates, to spread seeds of doubt, to spread misinformation.
Ooh, we got a new nickname, guys. The Wicked Agents of Satan. Sounds kinda metal to me.
Suppose someone that you know or that you are close to, they begin to grasp and cling to the misinformation or the bad teachings of apostates, and then they want to share it with you. What would you do?
And this is where they play the apostate videos, which we covered previously. But this time we actually get to see what happens after Justin flees the scene like a coward. He looks into a sunset and has flashbacks of the Jesus movie.
Jesus' example helped them to stand firm and resist the negative influences of the family who were overreached by Satan and apostate thinking.
And that's the whole point of this video series, to pitch families against each other. If you perceive a family member to be infected with apostate thinking, you are to kick them out of your life. That is what pure worship means, guys. Being so religiously indoctrinated that you are unable to listen to outside opinions.
As clearly outlined here, we must always be ready to make a defense of the truth.
Wait, what? Justin wasn't willing to make a defense of the truth. He drove away like a coward. So much for courageously defending the truth.
We must always be ready to make a defense of the truth.
Epic.
Now, although we do not directly engage apostates in communication, when might it be appropriate for us to counteract or to make a defense as it relates to the truth and apostate teachings? Or suppose we have a relative or someone who's interested in the Bible and they begin to sincerely ask questions that, unknowns to them, originates with apostates.
What would even be an example of a question that originates with apostates? Who knows? They never give a single example.
Don't ask questions.
This series of videos is one of the worst ones I've seen. Imagine you're a newcomer to the religion and you come to this convention and these are the first videos you get to see. Videos discouraging cancer patients from sharing their stories online, and videos telling JWs to stick their head in the sand when presented with outside information. Wow, if I was a newcomer, I would be really put off by these videos. It's almost like they want outsiders to know that they're a doomsday cult.
Excuse me, are y'all with the cult?
We're not a cult.
We do not directly engage apostates in communication.
Yeah, this is it.
The next series of videos is titled Lessons from the Land of Jesus, in which this Scottish dude travels around Israel and occupied Palestine to show us some neat artifacts. It has some interesting trivia, but nothing too exciting. It's just kind of funny seeing this bloke in the Holy Land pronouncing the name of God as Jehovah.
The Tetragrammaton, Jehovah's name, written in ancient Hebrew. It seems it was part of the phrase, the house of Jehovah.
He should do that in a synagogue and see what happens. The final talk of the day is quite strange, and it's titled, What Does Jesus See in You? It tells the experience of this guy from Mexico and this lady from New York who overcame feelings of low self-esteem thanks to the congregation. But of course, whenever they talk about Jesus a little more than usual, it's usually to encourage you to be used by the organization.
So let Jesus use you in whatever way he chooses. When you do, you will experience the deep joy and satisfaction of reaching the potential that Jesus sees in you.
They're finally going to be gone. All these despicable enemies that have just reproached Jehovah's name, destroyed, never ever to live again. Especially these despicable apostates who at one point had dedicated their life to God and then they joined forces with Satan, the devil, the chief apostate of all time.
So the kind folks at Reddit recently leaked a few convention videos which are incredibly disturbing. These videos teach Jehovah's Witnesses how they should react to apostates, aka anyone who has left the religious organization. You know that Watchtower has a long history of speaking against apostates, casting them as mentally diseased individuals under the control of Satan. Well, now they stepped up their rhetoric even more, as they're going to equate listening to apostates to listening to Satan himself. Yeah, it's about to get culty. You know, as always, we're doing the cringe challenge, so if you cringe, you lose, and when you cringe, let me know the exact moment you lost it. Are you ready?
Hello, everyone. I'm sure you've enjoyed spending 3 days together in pure worship of Jehovah.
They sent poor David's plane to the grandfather's sofa. My dude is getting old.
First, let's consider Jesus' example of integrity. In the symposium, Imitate Jesus' responses to the tempter, we saw how we can remain loyal to Jehovah. We reject fleshly desires.
If this app could lead me to damage my relationship with Jehovah, it's not for me.
So from what I was able to reconstruct so far, the Apostate clips are part of a series of videos focused on this family. Each family member is faced with a temptation to do something bad. For example, using a mobile application that displeases Jehovah.
We avoid drawing undue attention to ourselves.
Hi everyone that may be watching. I just really wanted to share with you all my truth about this whole experience.
Updating friends and family is one thing, but this feels wrong.
So this lady seems to be undergoing a health challenge of sorts. Maybe cancer, judging from the head covering, and as she tries to share her experience on the internet, she was probably chastised for it, because that would be drawing undue attention to herself. Oh, but Watchtower has no problem showcasing members with disabilities as long as they're used for the propaganda. This religion sucks, man.
We resist the lure of wealth and prominence.
Satan has always done this.
Bro was just looking at a nice house. Okay, here's the apostate section. Brace yourself.
And we refuse to listen to those who have rejected the truth.
Why am I still getting these posts?
Damn, I have to give it to them. They captured the feeling of cognitive dissonance perfectly here. The eerie music, the somber blue light, the boiling water, that's exactly how it feels when you're a believing Jehovah's Witness and you stumble across a post from an ex-member. Accusations of fraud, of covering up history, of enabling CSA. When you see these things, your indoctrinated brain starts sounding the alarm. You know you're not supposed to be looking at that stuff. The governing body told you so. But a part of you wants to learn more. You want to disprove these accusations because they must be false, right? God's one true organization would never cover over atrocities. At one point you start praying to Jehovah, asking him to not let you see any more of these posts. But if you're on the internet, it's only a matter of time before you see them again. That's what the brother in this illustration is feeling. Cognitive dissonance. And it's frankly one of the worst feelings in the world, especially if you're stuck in a high control religion.
Satan always tries to exploit our natural desires, like he did with Jesus.
If you are a son of God, tell these stones to become loaves of bread.
You know, I have no idea how the story of Jesus' temptation correlates with this experience. It's like they couldn't find a Bible story that teaches us to cover our ears against other people's points of view, and they had to use the temptation story and somehow make it fit.
Bethel's nice, but you have to think about your future.
If people could hear your truth, you would be an encouragement to so many people.
When I was your age, they told me all the time that the end could come tomorrow. But look at us. We're still here.
I mean, the dude is right. He brought up two really good points. You need to seriously consider your future before you accept going to Bethel, where you'll perform free labor for years. What are you gonna study? What career are you going to pursue? How are you gonna pay your bills? Watchtower is not gonna write you any checks, so you must be thinking about these things. Uncle is just looking out for his family's well-being. And his second point is also valid.
When I was your age, they told me all the time that the end could come tomorrow. But look at us. We're still here.
Our grandparents have been expecting Armageddon since they were young, and we're still here. If that generation was so convinced of an imminent end, and they got it wrong and now they're old, the same thing could happen to us. This is a legitimate concern that is brought over and over again, but Watchtower doesn't even bother addressing it at all.
What's wrong?
I'm worried about them. They're different.
Yeah. I kind of felt that too.
You know, whenever I ask him how things going in their congregation, he won't give me a straight answer.
Really?
And he's always shifting the conversation to something negative about the organization.
How? What are you gonna do?
I don't know. But I sure hope I'm wrong.
Notice how the wife didn't even bother learning about the concerns brought up by her brother-in-law. She just went, what are you gonna do about it? It's a defense mechanism. She has to remain cold and distant from any apostate ideas, or else her beliefs will be challenged. And as much as Jehovah's Witnesses love to challenge the belief systems of other people, they don't like it that much when you challenge their belief system.
Hey, Justin, I want you to read this article I just sent you. It's gonna change the way you see the organization. Get back to me. Did you get that message I sent you?
Why would you send that to me? Better yet, why are you reading that garbage? It's all lies.
Garbage? How do you know if it's garbage if you haven't even read it?
Okay, boys and girls, guess how Justin is going to answer that question. How do you know the article is garbage if you haven't even read it? Is Justin A, going to read the article in order to disprove it, or B, is he going to actually listen to what his brother has to say? Time's up. The answer is C. He's going to ignore the question altogether and threaten to snitch his brother out.
Listen, you need to talk with your elders, because you need help. And if you don't speak to them, I will.
There's so much packed in this one line of dialogue. It's so insidious. Notice how they cast the questioning brother as spiritually sick, as needing urgent help from the elders. You know who else needs urgent help from the elders? Members who just committed a grave sin. So in a way, the organization is equating doing outside research and questioning your religion with grave sin. This point is reinforced when Justin threatens to talk to the elders himself. He expects his brother to stop his research at once and turn himself in. He might be treated with some compassion and just treated as someone who's having doubts. But if Justin reports him to the elders, then the elders will consider him an apostate and possibly disfellowship him. No, most probably disfellowship him. But that's exactly what the Watchtower wants. Anyone who has concerns about the organization is expected to either keep it to themselves or be cast off as an apostate. And believers are to serve as a sort of Gestapo to keep the organization pure. If it means snitching on your family members and ruining their lives, then so be it.
Wow, that's what you feel. I need help. I don't need any help, man. I'm finding the answers to my questions, bro, and I'm keeping an open mind.
Open mind? You're ignoring Jehovah's thinking. The truth saved our lives.
Justin, he's not ignoring Jehovah's teachings. If you truly believe God is the author of the Bible, then you would know he encourages us to keep an open mind. Just like when Paul was preaching to the Bereans, Acts 17:11 says, "Now, the Berean Jews were of more noble character than those in Thessalonica, for they received the message with great eagerness and examined the scriptures every day to see if what Paul said was true. These Bereans didn't put their head in the sand after encountering a different point of view. The message that Paul was preaching was a drastic break from their religion, but what did they do? They kept an open mind and used the Bible to make sure that what Paul was preaching was actually true. And Watchtower loves to use this example of the Bereans to encourage people to study the Bible with them, but they completely forget about it once their beliefs are challenged by ex-members. And look, even if you don't believe in the Bible, like it's my case, I find it logical that a loving God who gave us a brain would want us to use it. Justin's brother is the one who's following Bible principles, and he's treated like Satan for doing so.
You're ignoring Jehovah's thinking.
And by ignoring Jehovah's teachings, Justin really means ignoring the teachings of the Watchtower, because in his mind, Jehovah and the organization are one and the same.
The truth saved our lives.
He also claims that the truth saved their lives. In other words, it was converting to the Jehovah's Witnesses that saved them from a miserable existence as worldly people. But even if converting to the religion improved their life in the past, that does not make the religion true. Just imagine a Catholic making the same argument. Joining the Catholic Church saved my life. That's how I know it is the one true church. Do you think any Jehovah's Witnesses would buy into that? Of course not. This is just a slogan that Justin must repeat to himself to maintain his beliefs. But it doesn't address any logical inconsistencies, it just appeals to his emotions. He wants his brother to ponder on all the good times they spent in the religion. But just because something was good for you in the past, that doesn't mean it's good for you forever. In my case, getting baptized did give me some stability during my teenage years, and I do have fond memories of when I was still in the religion, but just as Justin's brother, as my knowledge increased, my needs changed, and I found no more room for an organization which actively lied to me. So yeah, Justin, none of your arguments stand up to scrutiny. You should at least listen to what your brother has to say.
Look, man, how long have we known each other? I would never steer you wrong. I'm not out to hurt you. I'm trying to help you. How long have you known me?
Tell these stones to become loaves of bread.
I'm trying to share with you the truth.
Throw yourself down.
Do you really think I would steer you wrong?
I will give you all this authority.
I definitely don't need any help from them.
Do an act of worship before me. Go away, Satan!
Stop.
There's only one truth, and it comes from Jehovah.
You're gonna walk away like that? What are you so afraid of? Man, stop being a coward.
Justin did not engage with a single argument that his brother brought up. Hell, we don't even know the arguments because Watchtower never mentions them. They cast any criticism of the organization as a lie, regardless if it's true or not. Negative equals false. Watchtower has no interest in engaging with the arguments and responding to them. All they want is for their members to stick their head in the sand and ignore all dissenting opinions. Like I mentioned, the temptations that Satan cast before Jesus have nothing to do with this dramatization. But Watchtower doesn't care. All they want is for JWs to associate any negative reports about the organization with Satan himself. We have reached a new level here, guys. Apostates are not just influenced by Satan, they are Satan. His words are our words. It's made explicit in the video when Satan's words overlap with the words of Justin's brother.
I definitely don't need any help from them.
Do an act of worship before me.
The devil is no longer the ultimate boogeyman in this religion. It's apostates. In the eyes of the Watchtower, apostasy is the worst sin you can commit. It is worse than being a liar, an adulterer, or a predator. In the temptation story, Jesus responds to Satan by quoting the scriptures and exposing his lies. And Satan is the one that gives up and flees. But in this convention video, Justin responds to his brother by literally running away and threatening to snitch him out. The organization is telling Jehovah's Witnesses to run away from any criticism of their religion. Wow, how brave.
Are you afraid? Are you chicken?
This commenter on Reddit put it perfectly. If this sect really preached the truth, they would be confident and calm, and we, the apostates, would be nervous and scared to death of them. But what happens is quite the opposite. Jehovah's Witnesses are nervous and scared to death of the apostates. And we apostates are calm here because we know that Jehovah's Witnesses are just a sect that preaches lies. Yep, I really can't emphasize this enough. When you're a Jehovah's Witness, you are terrified of stumbling across apostate sites. Because deep down, you know that something is wrong. You know that the organization is keeping something from you. You just don't know what exactly. But you also know that the cost of doing further research is very great. You know what would happen if you pulled back the curtain to see the man behind it. And that's what keeps so many JWs from ever listening to former members. It's not conviction, it's not love, it's fear. The fear of losing everything. And some of these Reddit comments are just super insightful. Let me just read a few for you. It's because they know how weak the faith of the average JW is. It takes nothing to burst their bubble of belief. If they had the truth, they wouldn't be afraid of any accusation thrown at them because they could disprove it. In fact, they would be encouraged to do it to build up their faith. But nope, paper thin faith, massive persecution complex. Yep. Here's another comment. Gross video. They don't even see the irony. Think of how that scenario would be perceived if it was the JW trying to explain what they believe and the non-JW getting in the car and driving off. They can't even have a conversation anymore. Just equate anything that doesn't match with Satan and run. This is just like that video of Jade who grabs her purse and makes for the exit if her own mother so much as hints at having concern about her religion. Videos like this should be sending off so many red flags. At this point, Watchtower has released so many anti-apostate videos, you could make a whole Netflix special out of it. But you know, I'm glad these apostate videos leaked so early, because they show that the governing body is terrified of apostates. They have been for a while, since David's plane officially declared war on apostates back in 2021. Another spineless talk which told JWs to stick their head in the sand. And I know these videos will deter some members from ever doing outside research, but I hope at least some of them start wondering, what is this organization keeping from me? And once they actually treat that question seriously, that will be the first step towards finding their freedom. Hello boys and girls, it's convention season once again, and you know what that means. We get 2 new episodes of the new Watchtower Jesus series.
The good news according to Jesus.
In the first episode, which you can check right here, we witnessed Mary, Joseph, and baby Jesus cruise around the Holy Land, escaping murderers, tyrants, and meeting Aussie angels.
Jehovah is with you.
But now, baby Jesus is all grown up, and he's ready to get baptized. Will he be able to resist the temptations of Satan and fulfill his destiny as Messiah? Stick around and find out. You know, as always, we're doing the cringe challenge, so if you cringe, you lose, and when you cringe, let me know the exact moment you lost it. Are you ready? Let's get into it.
God's declaration came to John, the son of Zechariah, in the wilderness.
You know, credit where credit is due. Some of these shots are amazing. Please don't let this movie be brought down by terrible dialogue and boring scenes. Please, please, please.
In those days, John the Baptist came preaching in the wilderness of Judea.
Repent! So John the Baptist is such a fascinating character, and I think he's criminally underrated. He was a true apocalyptic preacher, going around the countryside, eating locusts, telling people to repent, dunking them in water, and telling the Pharisees to shove it. If John was alive today, he would probably be one of those preachers holding those obnoxious signs in front of the Vegas Strip, baptizing people in the Bellagio fountain.
For the kingdom of the heavens has drawn near.
I just can't take these Aussie accents seriously, man. I just imagine John started his own cult in the backwaters of Australia and is collecting souls for an image of Steve Irwin. Now that's a cult I could get behind.
When he caught sight of many of the Pharisees and Sadducees coming to the baptism, he said to them,
You offspring of vipers! Who has warned you to flee from the coming wrath? Therefore produce fruit that befits repentance. The axe is already lying at the root of the trees. Every tree, then, that does not produce fine fruit is to be cut down and thrown into the fire.
Damn, I see where Jesus got his no fucks given attitude. He learned from the best. Next we get to see JC himself, and he's doing his evening prayers on the floor. And in the next scene, he's already shirtless. A bit of eye candy for the ladies.
But how about male thirst traps? Now we're talking.
It seems that when he was not busy praying, Jesus was hitting those righteous reps. And after coming out of the water, he immediately starts to hallucinate the Watchtower version of Jehovah. I think John spiked his drink or something.
after being baptized, Jesus immediately came. And look, the heavens were opened up, and he saw God's Spirit descending like a dove and coming upon him.
That definitely felt like a video game cutscene. Congratulations, you just unlocked the Holy Spirit. Now you can perform miracles.
This is my Son, the beloved, whom I have approved.
So now Jesus unlocks a new cutscene where he recalls all the millennia he spent in heaven with his Father. Remember, Jehovah's Witnesses don't believe in the Trinity, so Jesus is not eternal. He's not capital G God. He's only a God. He is the Son of God, the first being created by Jehovah. So pretty much second in command in the universe. They also don't believe that the Holy Spirit is a person. Instead, the Holy Spirit is Jehovah's active force. That's why the dove disappears into Jesus like an energy drop, because it's just Jehovah's energy, the J-force if you will. So JWs believe that Jesus became the Messiah only after he was baptized. It's like he lived his entire life with amnesia, and only after being dunked did he remember his pre-earthly life. The Bible is not clear on whether Jesus knew his role before this. There's a lot of speculation, and different denominations may have different answers to this question, so write down in the comments below, what does your denomination say? When did Jesus realize he was the Messiah? Was this a gradual realization or a sudden revelation? Let me know in the comments below. So after receiving his new superpowers, Jesus walks off into the wilderness, fasting for 40 days and 40 nights. And I kid you not, this film starts reciting his entire genealogy as found in the book of Matthew. Yeah, you know how the book of Matthew lists all of Jesus' forefathers all the way back to Adam? Well, yeah, this film spends almost 4 minutes going through the whole list.
When Jesus began his work, he was about 30 years old, being the son, as the opinion was, of Joseph, son of Heli,
2,000 years later,
son of Janai,
I can just imagine the kids at the convention watching this bored out of their minds, just wishing they were playing Minecraft instead. But at least we get a cameo from Noah, David, and Abraham. You know, when he completely lost his marbles and was about to sacrifice his son to a desert storm god. Yeah, man, you got some crazy people in your family tree, huh?
Son of Adam.
Why is Adam mogging us?
The governing body loves you.
When you get catfished by your Tinder date?
Son of God.
After he had fasted for 40 days and 40 nights,
it doesn't look like he fasted for a single evening.
He felt hungry. And the tempter approached.
Okay, the devil's introduction wasn't as cringe as I thought it would be. I thought they were gonna go for like a snake slithering into the scene, but Satan just manifests himself right next to JC. I mean, just look at the aura of this dude. But I feel kind of bad for the JW playing Satan in this. He's probably not gonna hear the end of it.
If you are a son of God, tell these stones to become loaves of bread.
Bread? That's not very tempting at all. You should have offered him a falafel sandwich with some tahini sauce and some fresh lettuce and some baklava. Now that would be a temptation.
It is written, man must live not on bread alone, but on every word that comes from Jehovah's mouth.
Alright. That was a pretty sick transition. You got me there.
Then the devil took him along into the holy city, and he stationed him on the battlement of the temple, and said to him,
If you are a son of God, throw yourself down, for it is written, He will give His angels a command concerning you, and they will carry you on their hands, so that you may not strike your foot against a stone.
Again, it is written, you must not put Jehovah your God to the test.
How is this a temptation again? Jesus must know that this is just a vision, right? He's not physically in the temple, and he already knows he's the Son of God. So why would he need to prove anything to a vastly inferior spirit creature dressed in a potato sack? Damn, this tempter sucks, dude. They cooked so much with the last transition that they didn't bother making a new one.
So he brought him up and showed him all the kingdoms of the inhabited earth in an instant of time. Then the devil said to him,
I will give you all this authority and their glory, because it has been handed over to me.
By your daddy?
And I give it to whomever I wish. If you, therefore, do an act of worship before me, it will all be yours.
Go away, Satan, for it is written, it is Jehovah your God you must worship, and it is to him alone you must render sacred service.
Wait, Jesus didn't even look tempted here, like, at all. Satan literally just offered him all the kingdoms in the world and a life where he doesn't have to suffer an excruciating death. But JW Jesus just rejects it like it was nothing, like the ultimate stoic. If you want to make a good temptation scene, you have to portray Jesus as, actually being tempted, actually considering the offer. He was human after all, right? He would face the same temptations as us. This scene just falls completely flat. I think the Bible series did it much better because Jesus actually considers Satan's offer. And then they overlap the temptation where he's king of the world with scenes where he's being crucified to show you why Jesus would be tempted in the first place. It would be an easy exit from the agonizing death that he's destined to endure. But yeah, no, not in this film because Jesus is not even fazed. And JW Satan doesn't even look disappointed after failing to tempt Jesus. He's just like, alright, I did my job here, and dips. Even the cartoon Satan from the Caleb and Sophia series puts way more emotion into it after Jesus refuses to fall for his offers.
It is written, man must not live on bread alone.
Man, what a way to ruin what could have been such a powerful scene.
And look, angels came. And began to minister to him.
Why? Why are all the angels depicted as bearded white men? You gotta get some black angels up there in heaven because Jesus probably received the most bland, unspiced food imaginable. So now Jesus returns back to civilization and John gives him his first two disciples, one of them being Andrew, the brother of Simon. The gospel accounts differ on the order in which the disciples were called. The Gospel of John depicts Andrew being called first and then inviting his brother Simon to meet Jesus. But the Synoptic Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, all portray Andrew and Simon being called by Jesus at the same time. Is it a contradiction? It could be. It's not as shocking as the discrepancies between the birth narratives of Matthew and Luke, but still somewhat curious.
See, the Lamb of God.
When the two disciples heard him say this, they followed Jesus.
Anyways, Jesus collects his first four disciples, Andrew, Simon, James, and John. All of them worked as fishermen, and all of them were probably illiterate, as Galilee was considered like the backwater region of Israel back then. Yeah, Jesus was out there collecting hillbillies. Simon receives a new nickname, Cephas, aka Petros. Peter, his name is Peter, and he's gonna be Jesus' most prominent disciple in the story, and according to Catholics, the very first pope, but that's another story. Jesus makes two more disciples, Philip and Nathaniel, and then the boys are invited to a wedding feast in Cana. And it's super weird because they reused the same actress that played Mary, the mother of Jesus, in the first episode, but they just gave her a gray wig and some makeup. Like, dude, it's been 30 years since we last saw Mary. She should look a bit older than this. She needs to drop her skincare routine.
When the wine ran short, the mother of Jesus said to him,
"They have no wine."
Woman, why is that of concern to me and to you?
Bruh, if I would have responded to my mother like this, I would have gotten the chancla. But then again, I wasn't conceived by Holy Spirit, so what the hell do I know?
My hour has not yet come.
Jesus eventually concedes and saves the party by turning water into wine, thus performing his very first miracle.
Jesus did this in Cana of Galilee as the beginning of his signs.
And then everyone gets completely plastered. So whenever some evangelical tries to tell you that drinking alcohol and dancing is a sin, just ask them, what would Jesus do? Because he would definitely be bringing a pack of modelos for the homies.
Good answer.
So after recovering from their hangover, Jesus and company head over to Jerusalem. But something is very wrong. The temple merchants are ripping people off by selling animals at a ridiculous markup. So Jesus completely loses it. He scatters the merchants' money on the ground while the poor people pick up the coins. You know, like wealth redistribution, a true socialist hero.
Stop making the house of my father a house of commerce!
Apparently, all those megachurch pastors didn't read this part of the Gospels.
His disciples recalled that it is written, "The zeal for your house will consume me."
The cleansing of the temple is one of the most iconic events in the life of Jesus, and rightfully so, because it's like we're so used to imagine Jesus as this peaceful hippie that the image of him knocking tables over is quite shocking. This event is recorded in all of the Gospels. However, the chronology of the event differs between John and the Synoptics. In John, Jesus cleanses the temple at the beginning of his ministry, as we saw in this scene, but in the Synoptics, this event happens in the final week of his life. Is this referring to the same event or two different ones? It's hard to tell, but in any case, this would have really pissed off the higher-ups in the temple. No wonder they wanted Jesus gone. And that's how the episode ends, with Jesus walking around Jerusalem surrounded by a legion of new fans. The next episode, episode 3, is not very interesting, like at all. You have Nicodemus meeting Jesus at night, you got John being imprisoned, and Jesus talking with the Samaritan woman at the well. As I pointed out in the first episode, the problem with this series is that it's a word-for-word reconstruction of the Gospels. Like, the characters just repeat the exact words from the New World Translation, and they do so in the most monotone way possible. You see, when you adapt a book or a novel into a film, you have to take some artistic liberties. Like, this can be done while remaining faithful to the material. But if you just recreate the Gospels word for word, it's gonna be bad.
The good news according to Jesus, however, will show all the events of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John in the order in which they happened.
And most of this is made worse by the fact that most of the people participating in this film have no previous acting experience. How could they? Jehovah's Witnesses are not encouraged to pursue higher education. Also, most of these volunteers are used only for one scene, so they don't have much of an incentive to actually, be good. And the crushing responsibility of being in the Jesus movie also probably doesn't help with them, taking much artistic liberty in their roles.
My food is to do the will of him who sent me and to finish his work.
Bruh.
Do you not?
Most of the movie is like this, by the way. Boring dialogues, long scenes of people just walking or looking into the distance. I wasn't expecting a fast-paced action movie, but you gotta keep the plot going, right? If you linger too much in these boring scenes, you're just gonna lose your audience. I still can't believe this is what they had been hyping up for so long. Millions of dollars went into this production, and they somehow managed to make it extremely boring. It's like they saw the Chosen series and decided to do that, but take away all the charm and the interesting extra plots and make it as boring as possible.
We want the best for the Brotherhood. We want them to be able to see the power and impact of what Jesus taught.
So after the Samaritan lady at the well goes back to her town to tell everyone how cool Jesus is, Jesus performs his second miracle, healing the son of a government official. Pretty cool. He also reads from a scroll in the synagogue, and then we're reminded that this is a Watchtower production.
Jehovah's Spirit is upon me, because he anointed me to declare good news to the poor, to preach Jehovah's acceptable year.
I just can't get over the fact that they portray these first century Jews pronouncing the name of God and pronouncing it as Jehovah.
Jehovah your God, Jehovah.
The producers devoted so much effort to historical accuracy only for them to do this. Jews back in the 1st century would have never uttered the divine name out like this, even if it was written in their scrolls.
I had a lovely supper, and all I said to my wife was that piece of halibut was good enough for Jehovah. Blasphemy!
They would have replaced it with Adonai or another title. But of course, J.W. Jesus loves using Jehovah's name, even if the term Jehovah was invented sometime in the 13th century. This has to be a time-traveling Jesus for sure. That's the only explanation.
Jesus.
Some of the elders in the synagogue don't believe what Jesus is saying, and they accuse him of blasphemy, not because he just uttered the name of God twice, but because he claimed to be the fulfillment of Isaiah's prophecy.
Now all those hearing these things in the synagogue became filled with anger.
And I mean, can you really blame them for reacting like this? They haven't seen any of Jesus' miracles. They just know him as the son of the carpenter, who has been hanging out with John the Baptist for a little too long. They probably think Jesus went crazy, so they try to reprove him by tossing him off a cliff. Maybe you're overreacting a bit there, guys.
In order to throw him down headlong. But he went right through their midst and continued on his way.
Whoa, that's a nice little trick. The Bible just says that Jesus walked right through the crowd. Did he phase through? Did he teleport? Did he just crouch and sneak off? Who knows? Maybe he had like an invisibility cloak. So these are all of Jesus' superpowers so far. He can turn water into wine. He can heal people from a distance. He can use the name of God without anyone raising an eyebrow. And now he can walk through crowds. Damn, he's super OP. What's next? Is he gonna resurrect from the dead? So Jesus walks away with his mother, and he goes back to Galilee to visit his homie, Peter. After an unfruitful day at work, he helps the fishermen out by multiplying their catch.
For both he and those with him were overwhelmed with astonishment at the catch of fish they had taken.
Another superpower to the list.
Seeing this, Simon Peter fell down at the knees of Jesus.
Depart from me, Lord, because I am a sinful man.
I ate a birthday cupcake, Lord.
But Jesus said to Simon,
Stop being afraid. From now on, you will be catching men alive.
I wonder if Jesus and Peter are gonna have the same chemistry that they had in the Caleb and Sophia cartoon. That would be pretty fun to watch.
Simon, son of John,
do you love me? Yes, Lord, you know I have affection for you.
So the boys abandon everything to follow Jesus, and they're ready to embark on new adventures through the countryside. The end. No, I'm just kidding, it's not the end. They're gonna release like 16 more episodes of this. It's far from over. There's still plenty of thirst-trapped Jesus to go around.
Sexy. Jesus.
Sexual relations.
Hello boys and girls, welcome to episode 2 of the 2025 Convention Rebuttal.
Welcome to day 2 of our Pure Worship Convention.
In the last episode, we saw what we're supposed to do when confronted with the ideas of apostates. Run away like cowards. Well, the indoctrination videos are not over yet. They're just getting started. And yeah, it's about to get culty. You know, as always, we're doing the cringe challenge, so if you cringe, you lose, and when you cringe, let me know the exact moment you lost it. Are you ready? Let's get into it. The first talk of the Saturday session is titled, What Are You Looking For? And we get another governing body fossil in the share, Garrett Lush. This guy has been old for decades now. He's like the J.W. Morgan Freeman. Let's see what he has to say.
Imagine what it was like for Jesus to have the Holy Spirit come down upon him. He evidently could then perceive heavenly matters, including the memory of his pre-human life.
I think I can smell shite.
You know, whenever the governing body uses the word evidently, they are just making stuff up. The Bible never says that Jesus recalled his heavenly life after receiving the Holy Spirit, or that he had a vision of Jehovah as depicted in the Watchtower publications. This scene is just fan fiction. Next, we get a symposium of talks based on the Jesus episodes we already covered, each talk based on one of Jesus' disciples. And we get a video of this man from Angola who decided to pursue a short career in order to serve Jehovah more fully, and his justification for doing so is crazy.
I chose to follow a technical course that would give me the practical aptitudes that could help me to find a job. At first, my family wasn't pleased with my decision. Even people in the congregation tried to change my mind. In 2016, 3 years after I decided not to go to university, my father passed away. That was devastating because we loved him very much, and he was the principal breadwinner in the family. If I had gone to university, I would have still been a student when I lost my father, and I would not have been able to look after my family.
Holy cow! I've covered dozens of interviews by now on young Jehovah's Witnesses explaining why it was a good idea to limit their higher education, but this is the wildest take so far. If I would have gone to university, I wouldn't have been able to support my family after my father died. How would you have known that he was gonna pass away? You can't sabotage your education because one of your parents might pass away early. It could happen to anyone. This is some destructive advice.
But because of the technical course that I took, I was able to find work that allowed me to support my family. Looking back on the decision I made, it brings me the greatest joy that I handed over my life to Jehovah.
I'm glad your life turned out fine, man, but that's not gonna be the case for everyone that puts down university. Take your education seriously, boys and girls, because Jehovah does not pay the bills. Next, we get a talk by Robert Saranko, who is the personification of joy.
We have normal contacts with neighbors, workmates, schoolmates, and others, and we witness to them, even if some of them are living immoral lives. We cannot avoid them completely.
And he's gonna ramble about the loose morality of Satan's world.
You know, it used to be that when two single people slept together, it was viewed as if they were living in sin. Now they say they're just living together. And when married people were promiscuous, they were known as adulterers. But these days, oh, they're just having an affair.
Dude, an affair is adultery. Most people today still consider cheating on your spouse to be super fucking lame. Like, sure, premarital sex is somewhat normalized now, but I've never heard anyone actually defend adultery. Like, what are you on about?
And when people practice homosexual activities, that was an abhorrent thing in the olden days. Now it's just an alternate lifestyle.
He looks so disappointed. Oh man, could we go back to the days when gay people were persecuted for expressing their sexuality? Those were the good old days. What a sad, pathetic man.
Are you a homosexual?
And just because many people reject God's view of sin does not mean it doesn't exist. That would be like a sick man who has a high fever trying to say there's nothing wrong with him by breaking the thermometer.
What? You can measure a fever by its symptoms and by checking the person's body temperature. You cannot measure sin. Sin is a metaphysical idea based on the story of Adam and Eve, two people who didn't even exist. First, you need to prove that such a thing as sin exists, and then we can start taking your ideas seriously.
Abhorrent thing in the olden days.
Hey pal, you just blowing from Stupid Town?
In the following video, you'll see how a former Catholic and a former Buddhist benefited personally from learning the Bible's explanation of sin and Jesus' atoning sacrifice.
Wait, Catholics are already familiar with the atonement. That's the whole point of Catholicism, right? Feeling guilty over your sin and then confessing to a priest? Oh, but I forgot. Catholics are not true worshippers of Jehovah because they don't knock on doors and they participate in politics.
Being able to share these truths with others brings me immense joy. There's no better thing in life that you could do to help people.
I'm not like the biggest fan of the Catholic Church, but this lady went from worshiping in a rich Christian tradition that's almost 2,000 years old to a sect created in the 1800s where you can't even partake from the bread and wine. Seems like a downgrade to me.
The prospect of everlasting life will become a reality for everyone who has faith in the Lamb of God who takes away sin.
And everyone who supports the governing body, because just having faith in Jesus is not enough. I can't stand this speaker, man. He's boring as hell. So let's move on to Kenneth Flodine, the poison bread man.
There's no forgiveness possible. Jehovah discards the person like a piece of garbage.
With his talk titled, "Take These Things Away From Here," based on the story where Jesus kicks out the guys selling stuff at the temple.
Pretend you're somewhere else.
Dog, I fucking wished.
Take these things away from here. And that, my friends, is the title of this part.
Such eloquent speakers, man. Handpicked by God, I tell you.
They were buying and selling in the temple complex. And on top of that, many were cheating, raising the prices. That was wrong. It was a violation of the holy place, turning it into a place of commerce instead of pure worship.
What's funny is that every convention arena is gonna be packed with donation boxes so that you can deposit your hard-earned cash as a gift offering. They even have credit card readers nowadays in case you want to make your donation with your card. I bet Jesus would have loved to see those at the temple.
And Jesus and his holy angels act today to keep God's congregation clean. So how thankful we can be that Jesus intends to keep the organization today clean.
Well, he seems to be doing a piss poor job at it because your organization is riddled with pedos.
But what could contaminate our worship? Well, we're going to ask you to use your discernment, watch carefully, see if you can pick up on the details. Roll camera.
This guy is corny as hell, man.
I like to feel my best. Okay, let's get you out of this chair. For others, and for myself.
Nice work, Poppy.
Hey, thanks.
Some cardio, then we'll go to the service group?
Yeah, sounds good. Oh, hey, check out the sculpting routine for next week.
Hey girl, sculpt your body and drive men crazy with this high-intensity workout.
What? She's certainly proud of her physique.
She's got millions of followers.
Yeah, I can see why.
Maybe because she's a hard worker, or because she motivates people to get their ass to the gym, which is not an easy thing to do, by the way. Or maybe her videos are well edited. I don't know, there could be a million different reasons why this gym influencer is famous, but of course, this upright JW lady assumes that it must be her body. And even if that's the case, there's nothing wrong with being proud of your body, especially if you worked really hard for it. Woman, you're just hella jealous. And the things they got the influencers saying are just super comical. I have never heard a gym influencer say that they work out to drive the men crazy. In fact, if someone actually said this, she would probably face a bunch of backlash from women. The meatballs at Bethel have never gone on gym talk, and it shows. It's also funny how they shame this influencer lady for showing off her body, but then they're perfectly happy to show Jesus half naked on the pool. Aussie Jesus is gonna cause some ladies to stumble, I tell you.
She gets noticed. What's so wrong with a little attention?
Yeah, only the governing body deserves attention.
We've got our daily bread.
Ready to go?
Yeah. And we're making ends meet. Alex.
Little enemy of God.
but a little extra would go a long way.
What? They literally just showed a mom in a minivan with automatic doors. That technology has been around for years. Is that what luxury is to the Watchtower? A minivan? The JW lady already has a decent vehicle, so why would she be jealous? If this worldly lady was actually rich, she wouldn't even be grocery shopping. She would hire someone to get her groceries for her. This organization is so corny.
Work from home. Sell to your family and friends. We can work from home. Yeah. And with all the friends in the congregation, our family is huge. This kind of work was made for us, right, little man?
How much you want to bet it's gonna be a multi-level marketing scheme? JWs and Mormons always fall for those.
Dinner's almost ready.
Great.
I'm just about done with the bookwork.
Did we cover everything?
Just barely. You know, I was thinking, that job that just came in, you said they wanted fast and offered to pay us in cash?
Yeah, but we'll work hard however they pay us.
What if we take the cash and consider it a side job? Not part of the business?
So keep it off the books?
Taxes took so much last year. Look, here's how much we'd save. Things wouldn't be so tight. Does the government even care about what small businesses pay?
That kind of money wouldn't mean much to them. But it would mean the world to us.
Nah, buddy, you're super wrong. The government really needs your tax money. Those blank checks to Israel are not gonna write themselves. So that's the dilemma, boys and girls. A lady who looks up to a workout influencer, a mom who is jealous of someone else's minivan, and a couple who wants to cheat the IRS. I wonder how they're gonna resolve these problems in a way that pleases Jehovah.
In the video, the witnesses involved had not yet done anything wrong.
Bruh.
But shall we say that they were entering a realm where it might be as if they stepped in something offensive to Christ Jesus' nostrils.
I laughed my ass off when I heard this bit. I think Kenny is losing his marbles.
Nostrils. Well, what was the first one? The potential of being drawn into sexual uncleanness.
Wait, what? How was the first lady going to fall into sexual uncleanness exactly? She was just looking at a workout influencer. We're not even allowed to do that anymore? Is that considered porneia now?
You're saying, come on, it was pretty benign, wasn't it? There's nothing wrong with an exercise program. True. But you notice what was driving it? It was something on the internet, a following. And when it said, you'll have a body that will make men's head turn.
Nope. She said it would make men go crazy. And again, that's not a line I've ever heard someone use. It came straight out of the Watchtower's putrid imagination. You guys are offering solutions to imaginary scenarios.
Uncleanness can involve things that titillate their feelings.
You definitely titillate my feelings, Kenny.
And they want more. And they want more. It's like garbage sitting in the garage. It begins to stink further and further every day, every minute. We need to decisively get it off the property. Uncleanness includes viewing pornography.
These guys are obsessed with porn.
It's true, it's not sexual fornication. There's no body contact. But it's stirring something up, and it's called uncleanness.
Bruh, I love how he said it's stirring something up, and he just pointed to his dong.
engaging in online discussions glorifying sex, looking at provocative images wherever they are. It could be in a catalog.
This guy is stuck in the 1800s. A catalog? Brother, who the hell is peeping through catalogs?
Sexting, again, no physical contact, but it is sexual uncleanness. So, nothing wrong with the sister's exercise routine. But it was this online tantalizing voice in her ear that could lead from bad to worse, like garbage sitting in the garage. It needs to be taken out to the landfill and burned.
These cultists are experts at taking a completely innocent situation and blowing it to seismic proportions. Do you see why Jehovah's Witnesses have such a hard time battling with lust? Because when everything becomes a temptation, you're always walking on eggshells. It's such a massive shit show.
Well, we commend all of you, and when I say all of you, I'm not talking about those in their late teens and 20s. I'm talking about all of you, whatever age, all of you who are holding fast to the high moral standards of Jehovah, including staying away from uncleanness.
I'm willing to bet that most of the men in that audience are either full-blown porn addicts or play with their Johnsons every now and then, especially the elders who are under a lot of pressure. So after rambling about sexual uncleanness for more than 5 minutes, we get to the second part of the videos, finally.
Roll camera.
Hey girls, sculpt your body and drive men crazy.
The exercise is good, but the way she talks and dresses. She's right. Drawing attention, being noticed for all the wrong reasons. Do I really want to fill my heart with these ideas?
Who was she following? The girl from the Duolingo app? Sadie's hot fitness trends. Wow.
Manipulative, worldly woman.
Goodbye, little sheep.
There's nothing wrong with being healthy, but I need to be more selective and stick to accounts that focus on fitness. A clean conscience is worth the effort.
God forbid a woman wants to look good and drive the men crazy. What a silly video, man. Imagine living your life being triggered by absolutely everything. God, couldn't be me.
Let's see, how would this work?
It's a little expensive.
Sure, it's a splurge, but you're supporting your sister. Exciting new products. Come check them out at section A2 and sent. Using the congregation to push a business? That could cross a line.
Well, it's a line that's been crossed thousands of times because MLMs are super big in the congregations, and it makes sense because you have like a ready-made net of acquaintances immediately at your disposal. So for JW sisters, MLMs turn out to be perfect hustles. The most famous example, which I've already talked about like a million times before, is Crystal Caras, the lady that played Megan in the film What is True Love. She uses her JW fame to grow her platform and sell essential oils, and it seems she has been pretty successful. I wonder how she's gonna react to this video. Nah, she probably won't give a shit.
Jehovah wants us to be happy. And he will always make sure we have what we need without mixing our work with our worship.
I mean, you could still start your little business without having to sell stuff in the Kingdom Hall, you know that, right? It's like the Watchtower wants their women to remain dependent on their husband's paycheck because that keeps them more submissive.
You know, babe, Jehovah doesn't expect us to be perfect, but he does expect us to be honest.
Yeah, it's just It's hard to see others get ahead while we struggle.
It's been tight, but we've always had what we've needed. I can't say what the government cares about.
Israel?
But we know who Jehovah cares for.
You're right. We'll report what the government asks us to report.
Well, that's rich. Coming from an organization that is deeply dishonest and that does everything in their power to not pay their fair share of taxes. This line is also incredibly ironic.
We'll report what the government asks us to report.
Yeah, this coming from a religion that is infamous for not reporting CSA offenders. What a ridiculous set of videos, man. They're not even connected to the Jesus story. Like, maybe the MLM video is slightly related, you know, don't use the Kingdom Hall to sell your junk, and the taxes video tells us to obey the government. But that influencer video had nothing to do with Jesus. I don't know what they were trying to cook with that one.
You get a whiff and you toss it out. You don't keep smelling that thing. We love Jehovah. He's the one that deserves pure worship. So cruise into his new world in style, but also with elegance. Happy travels to all of you.
Just look at this diva. Happy travels to you too, Kenny. I love how he wanted to blow a kiss to the audience, but he couldn't get himself to do it. He remembered, oh wait, this emote is not approved by the governing body, beep boop beep boop. The final talk of the program is titled, I Will Raise It Up, which sounds like an advertisement for Viagra, and it's presented by Grandpa Hurd. My dude is getting really old. His eyes look very cloudy. Hurd tells us that Jehovah blesses those who keep their integrity. So let's see how that plays out in real life.
In the following video, note how this might be done.
So, I have a question for you.
Okay.
Do you remember Dylan?
From school, yeah. Why?
Well, let's say, hypothetically, that I ran into him yesterday. And within seconds, he was asking about you.
Oh no.
So, if I very literally gave him your number, you wouldn't be mad, right?
What can I do for you?
So, we have city council elections coming up, and I have a proposition that could benefit the both of us. I'm gonna run for city councilor, and I wanna feature your business, really you, in my election campaign. Now, we used your profile photo for a mock-up, but we'll have a photo shoot in a few
Come on, Poppy. He's a good guy. Just talk to him. Why not?
You went to meetings long enough to know why.
No, this is not a Jehovah's Witness thing. You don't have to marry him just because he texts you. This is just about, you know, being with someone.
Macy, don't you know that JWs are not even allowed to consider dating unbelievers? What's the point of dating someone that's gonna be destroyed in Armageddon really soon?
Maisie, you know I live my life by Bible principles.
Listen, I'm being serious, okay? You've taken good care of yourself. But we're on the wrong side of 30, girl.
We do not see things the same way.
Don't you deserve to be happy?
No, Jehovah deserves to be happy.
You represent what's good about our community. And I want others to know that I'll have their back the same way that I've had yours. This type of exposure could do wonders for you.
Thank you so much for your kind words. But let me explain why I'll have to decline.
You're overthinking this. It's not about forever. You just don't need to spend the best years of your life alone.
Maisie, of course I want to find someone someday. But when I do, I want them to believe what I believe. That serving Jehovah's the most important thing in life.
It's just, you're gonna pass up every opportunity.
Thank you for caring about me, but really, I'm okay.
Yeah, just wait till you're no longer in your 30s and it becomes incredibly difficult to find a JW spouse.
I give my complete support to God's kingdom. That's why I remain neutral when it comes to politics.
You remain politically neutral because the Watchtower tells you so. Let's not kid ourselves.
I just don't understand.
Well, I'd be happy to share more if you'd like. There's an article
No, that won't be necessary. I have to say, I'm really disappointed by all of this, especially after everything that I've done for you. I really hope you'll reconsider.
Thank you for respecting my beliefs. I can assure you that I won't.
I'm going to have to think about what this means for us going forward. I hope we can get past this.
This is so dramatic, man. He's acting like this dude is his only worker available for a photo shoot. Dude, just get a generic stock photo from the internet and use that. You don't need this dude.
I don't get it. At all. But at the end of the day, I just want you to be happy.
I am happy, and I will be if I stick with Jehovah. That's what I want.
Jehovah is not gonna keep you company at night, at least in any tangible way. I don't know about you, but I've seen this play out several times in the Kingdom Hall. Single sisters not being able to find a spouse. They either remain single past their childbearing age, or they marry a J-dub they don't really like, or they end up caving and marry a non-believer, much to the dismay and gossip of the congregation. Damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of deal.
Let us be determined to follow Jesus' lead and maintain our integrity so that we benefit when Jehovah fulfills all of his wonderful promises.
And that man is a goner.
Hello boys and girls, welcome to the third and final day of our 2025 convention rebuttal. Today we're going to cover a lot of videos which show the grueling reality of being one of Jehovah's Witnesses. And stick around till the end because we have a new music video for your enjoyment. Yeah, it's about to get culty. You know, as always, we're doing the cringe challenge, so if you cringe, you lose, and when you cringe, let me know the exact moment you lost it. Are you ready? Let's get into it.
Strengthen your hope. In the following video, notice how one sister's hope has helped her to endure.
First, we get the life story of this lady from Greece who lost her baby girl, Evie, when she was only 1 year of age. And I've said it multiple times, JW parents that have lost their children to death are much more likely to become entrenched in the religion. It's much harder for them to wake up from their indoctrination. And the worst part is that Watchtower will use their grief to push these people to do more for their recruitment work. Just like this.
Thinking about the hope we have of a resurrection is something that does really help me. I think everyone wants that, but I have one more reason to want it. I really want the new system to come. But until that happens, I try to meditate about how Paul connected our hope with staying active. This helps me to realize that when I stay busy and zealous in the ministry, my hope will become more firm. Jehovah helped us continue serving in our assignment. This proved to be a great support for us, and it was like medicine for our grief.
And that makes sense because the more you participate in the ministry and talk about paradise, the more you will reinforce your own belief system. It's hard to question your religion when you're so busy all of the time.
Of course, we never expected it to be such a long journey. The love that we have for people has helped us to not focus on when the end will come.
In other words, we expected for Armageddon to arrive decades ago, but we're still here. There, I fixed it for you.
I've been able to help many people to come to know Jehovah and to serve him. That is an indescribable joy that I have today in this system. However, an even greater blessing that I am looking forward to is welcoming Evie back so that I can also teach her to serve and praise Jehovah forever.
Oh man, this is just so bittersweet. They sold this sweet couple the idea of an imminent paradise with no basis in reality, and then when they underwent a personal tragedy, they were convinced that the only way to pull forward was to devote more time to the preaching work, selling the paradise hope to even more people. It's just so insidious, but that's how this religion spreads, through grief. When you're a believer, you see these videos and you're moved by them, but once you leave, they become quite disturbing.
How can we imitate Jesus when talking to others about sensitive subjects or about deeply entrenched false beliefs? In the following video, note how a young publisher imitated Jesus.
Roll camera.
A new girl joined our class. I was praying to Jehovah for a long time that I want a Bible study, and I thought that this could be my chance. One day we were talking, and she had started to tell me that she's actually interested in a girl, someone that she's wanted to date. And I totally froze. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know if I should say something.
Oh, I know what you could have said. Nice, good for you. And then moved on with your life. Spoiler alert, there's women that happen to like other women. I know, shocker, right?
Why are you gay?
The bell rang, so I didn't say anything. But I knew that this topic would come up again. I felt so overwhelmed. How can I talk about something so sensitive, present it in a way that shows that Jehovah is loving and kind, but in the same way, talk about how I don't support it because it goes against my beliefs?
There's nothing loving or kind about asking people to hide their sexual orientation. If you still hold on to those opinions, I suggest you keep it to yourself.
Yeah, well, I don't support it because it goes against my beliefs.
Can you shut the fuck up?
So not too long after that, a girl from my class comes up to me and she's talking about this new couple in the school, and she mentioned that it's two girls. Only this time, I wasn't too shocked and I was prepared. She said, "You're one of Jehovah's Witnesses, right? So you don't support homosexuality. You hate them, right?" Yes! Yes! And I calmly explained to her that she is right that we don't support homosexuality, but that does not mean that we hate the people.
I swear, if they compare homosexuality to smoking one more time, I'm gonna jump off a cliff.
The Bible doesn't approve of smoking either, but most of my class smokes, and I never ignored them or disrespected them. And it's the same in this situation as well. I saw that she didn't agree with me 100%, but she wasn't upset, and she did listen to me, and I saw that she was thinking it over. And we continued to talk after that.
Of course, what were you expecting her to do? Start yelling at you because of your Iron Age beliefs? Most people would just be like, okay, and kind of quietly avoid you.
I felt so relieved after that conversation, and I felt that Jehovah was so proud of me, that he was like right there with me, and it just reassured me that when other controversial topics will come up again, Jehovah will help me prepare and season my words with salt so that I could be tactful with the people and share my beliefs.
Yeah, I don't think sharing those beliefs is gonna win any new converts, especially in such an irreligious country as Latvia. And if a newcomer is watching this in the convention, they're probably not gonna be swayed by these arguments either.
Are you a homosexual?
Next, we get a video of this lady from the Philippines, where she reveals what is a very common issue among Jehovah's Witnesses: the fear of preaching door to door.
When I became an unbaptized publisher, even though I wholeheartedly believed in the teachings and principles of the Bible and I had an appreciation for Jehovah, the concept of knocking on people's doors, talking to strangers, it's intimidating and goes against my personality.
Yes, boys and girls, not everyone in this world is an extrovert, and having to knock on strangers' doors to try to convert them sounds like one of the worst things for someone with anxiety. It was already hard enough for me, even though I wouldn't consider myself an introvert, so it must be torture for someone with high anxiety levels.
When I would approach a door, I felt like my feet would stop working. My palms would sweat. I would do just the softest knock. And I was thinking, please don't come out, please don't answer. I was afraid of the person behind the door. I felt like I didn't give a good impression of Jehovah. My fears and limitations made me feel that I don't deserve to be called one of Jehovah's Witnesses. I isolated myself from the congregation. I focused my time and efforts in my secular work. Before I realized, it was already more than a decade that I have been spiritually stagnant. I tried to find a sense of belongingness and also find any semblance of fulfillment in my life, but I was not successful. I wanted to make an effort to go back to the organization.
So this lady is what we would call a pommy, physically out, mentally in. Someone who is not active in the religion, but who still believes in the doctrine. They're often referred to as inactive individuals. Of course, this lady was not going to find a sense of fulfillment outside her religious community because she still believed that Jehovah's Witnesses were the one true religion. So being outside the community was weighing on her conscience. She eventually goes back to the congregation, gets baptized, and overcomes her fear of talking with strangers. So, happy ending, I guess?
To begin, in the following video, notice how one couple felt after they took an opportunity to share good news despite being tired.
But preaching is not only difficult for introverted people, no, it's also a challenge for people with a busy work schedule. Because after a long week of work, most people just want to relax on their day off. But nope, when you're a Jehovah's Witness, you're still expected to go out preaching. Sometimes it was very difficult to get out of bed and get to the service group. You have to eat breakfast, get dressed, drive to the Kingdom Hall, and then drive up to the assigned territory. Rinse and repeat every single week.
There's a constant to-do list racing through my mind. And so because of that, at the end of the day, I'm usually mentally and sometimes emotionally exhausted. I'll never forget one experience because it was an especially exhausting week. Even though I wanted to go out in service, it just seemed like more energy than I had. So I prayed to Jehovah multiple times to just get me up and get me out of the house that day. We went through the morning, and at the very last door, we found a man who allowed me to play the video, who was extremely impressed by it, and said that he had wondered all of those questions his whole life. So we arranged for Mike to come back.
Imagine having to work a long day in public school, dealing with obnoxious teenagers, and still having to go preaching in the afternoon because your wife found someone interested in the Bible. Man, I'm so grateful I don't have to go on service anymore.
She finds out that the man was going to be available Tuesday. So I'm going to have to go out after work to meet this man who I hadn't met before. I was a little anxious. It was a long day of work, and I didn't have very much to offer. But I thought, well, I had to follow up. And I go to the door, and there he is waiting for us. I decide, let me offer him the Bible study. He takes it right away. By the time I left the door, all of a sudden, I was full of energy.
If I can just share even one tiny bit of a truth with someone, there's so much purpose behind it and so much joy that at the end of the day, you're guaranteed to feel better than at the beginning.
At the end of the day, you're guaranteed to feel better than at the beginning.
That's such a common catchphrase among Jehovah's Witnesses. You arrive tired to the preaching work or the Kingdom Hall, and you come out feeling refreshed and renewed. And no, not really. Maybe you felt some satisfaction at doing what you were expected to do, but sometimes you would just come out feeling mentally drained. Believe me, if preaching wasn't a requirement for Jehovah's Witnesses, very few members would actually do it. How am I so sure of this? Just look at the Mormons. Mormons are not required to knock on doors, so who are the only ones doing it? The missionaries.
Eddie spent nearly a decade preaching in that territory. And do you know how many people he helped to reach to dedication and baptism? None.
Bruh. 0!
But when he left that assignment, Eddie was in tears. And I remember being shocked. I was amazed. What changed? Why was he suddenly so sad? He explained to me that after preaching there for years, he had developed a genuine love for the people of that territory.
Yeah, Eddie should have been crying that he failed to convert a single person, and now all of them would be destroyed in Armageddon. Because it seems Jehovah didn't bother moving a single heart in that community to join his one true religion. What a monumental waste of time.
You see, preaching good news was good for him. It helped nourish a quality that he needed to work on at that time. And it could do the same for us. Think about it, declaring our hope. It nourishes our faith, regardless of the response. Preaching informally, it strengthens our courage. Returning to not at homes can refine our patience and perseverance, and the list goes on. The point is, preaching good news is good for us.
There is a lot of truth to that statement. The preaching work is mainly to benefit the believer. If by benefit you mean further indoctrinate, that is. You see, whenever a JW preaches to someone, he is reinforcing his own belief system, and when people respond negatively, that reinforces his persecution complex, further convincing him that he's on the right path. After all, Jesus said that the world would hate his true followers, so if people are slamming the doors on my face, that must mean I'm on the right path. That's why Watchtower doesn't really mind if you make 0 converts after decades of service. What matters to them is that you stay so busy that you don't even have time to reevaluate your belief system.
Are we not grateful?
Next, we get a video with Mark Sanderson, who once again is encouraging the young ones to perform free labor for the religion. We literally just made a video a couple of weeks ago of him begging for volunteers.
Let me please.
Auxiliary Pioneer? It's encouraging to see many young ones are reaching out to pioneer. If you're young, have you made it a goal to reach out to pioneer? Like Fiorella, a rewarding and satisfying life awaits you if you do.
The preaching work is so exciting and fulfilling that Jehovah's Witnesses have to be constantly reminded of it. And he also brags about the progress that is being made, you guessed it, in Africa.
Across the ocean, on the continent of Africa, there's been tremendous growth. In just the last year, countries such as Malawi, Mozambique, and Zimbabwe have recorded all-time peaks in publishers.
The way this religion exploits this continent just makes me sick, man. And they don't even mention the whole continent of Africa. You'll never see Mark talking about Egypt or Somalia or Mauritania because those are Muslim majority countries where the preaching work is banned. It seems Jehovah doesn't give a shit about those countries, seeing how there's barely any publishers there.
Let's travel to Angola, where thousands of Bible studies are started each year.
In Rwanda, the ratio of Jehovah's Witnesses to the general population is 1 witness to 72 people. That's incredible. This shows that the work is being done well, and Jehovah has blessed his people who have been harvesting the vast field in this territory.
No, the success that JWs have enjoyed in Angola is not due to Big J's blessing. Angola is a Catholic majority country with a high poverty rate, the perfect breeding ground for Christian sects to flourish. Mormons and Seventh-day Adventists are also quite successful in Angola and sub-Saharan Africa in general, so would you say Jehovah is blessing them as well?
For example, just in our family, we are conducting over 46 Bible studies.
Our children are happy because they get to help many people.
Oh, that's another factor which I forgot to mention. Higher birth rates. People in Africa tend to have more babies than everywhere else, so more babies equal more potential preachers of God's kingdom. Nothing supernatural about any of this.
The fields are indeed white for harvesting, and what a joy it is to have a share in this most important work.
You know, if there's one thing that I'm super grateful for in my time as a Jehovah's Witness, is that I never managed to convert anyone. I just wasted thousands of hours out in the ministry, but that's okay. At least I didn't drag anyone into this cult. And the last talk of the convention is given by Jeffrey Jackson, titled Remain in Jehovah's Great Spiritual Temple. And he starts by explaining the meaning of worship. Again.
What is the Great Spiritual Temple? Jehovah's Great Spiritual Temple is his arrangement for offering acceptable worship based on the sacrifice of Jesus Christ. Those of the great crowd worship Jehovah in the earthly courtyard of the spiritual temple. They, along with the anointed, joyfully worship Jehovah.
No way they actually included Stephen Lett and Kenneth Cook as representing the anointed ones, while all the other sheep are generic placeholders. The cojones in these two, as if they already confirmed their spot in heaven. And I like how they tossed in this random anointed lady, which is funny because women will be allowed to rule with Jesus Christ in heaven if they are anointed, but they're not allowed to be members of the governing body. They're not even allowed to be elders in the congregation. Make it make sense. Jeffrey also gives us a preview of the next Jesus episodes, which look just as bland as episode 2 and 3.
Be silent and come out of him.
This dude looks just like the homeless man down the street asking for change. He does not look like someone who has 1,000 demons inside of him. Man, how did they manage to make the Jesus story so unbelievably boring? It takes some actual skills to sabotage the Gospels this bad.
You're boring.
So next time someone foolishly says to you, "You people don't believe in Jesus," you say, "Have you got a couple of hours? I've got something to show you."
Jeffrey ends the convention with a music video, which is, surprise, surprise, completely forgettable.
And bright, your love I feel, your love is real. I will praise you day and night, it's my delight.
It's just rehashed scenes of the Jesus movie put alongside videos of Jehovah's Witnesses preaching. And that's all this assembly was. Rehashed scenes from the Jesus series turned into modern day lessons. Some of the lessons were coherent, while others were a complete stretch. This convention was such a snooze fest. I know, that's the case for every convention, but this year, I just had a lot of trouble finding footage that I could even use. Most of the talks here were completely unsalvageable. The most brain-dead lessons designed for toddlers. This religion used to be obsessed with diving deep into the Bible, or at least pretending to be scholarly, but now it's just rewatching movie clips like 3 times and being spoon-fed elementary grade lessons. I think by the time the Jesus series is finished, there's not even gonna be a convention anymore. They're just gonna release a coloring book for adults and tell the sheep to have at it. God, I didn't even attend the convention in person and I couldn't wait for it to be over.
But we worship Jehovah our God every day, everywhere, because we want to do His will in the great spiritual temple today, tomorrow, and forever.
So 2025 JW Convention, let me know your thoughts in the comment below and let me know the moment you lost the cringe challenge because I love reading your comments. For you, which was the worst part of the program? Because for me, it has to be the Apostate videos. Those were just so incredibly culty. If you haven't seen the other convention videos and the rebuttal for the Jesus movie, I invite you to do so. I'll probably release all the convention footage in one video a few months after. And as always, I want to thank my beautiful Patreons and my YouTube channel members for your support. This channel would not be possible without you. If you appreciate my work and would like to gain early access to all my videos, please head on over to Patreon or become a channel member, because it's only $1 a month and you help me to keep this channel going for years to come. Guys, I love making videos for you. It does take a lot of work, but it's a great privilege to be part of this channel. Thank you so much, guys. See you on the next video. Take it easy, have a wonderful day, and stay away from the tower.
Bah. Goodbye, little sheep.